Welcome in to another episode of Building the Pride, a show where we attempt to talk it didn't work out. A show where we attempt to talk intellectually about the Detroit Lions. I'm Drew, and I am joined. I'm not joined by my co-host Mike. So last week, unfortunately, we shared the news that there was a death in Mike's family. And this week, Mike is attending that funeral. So he will not be joining us. But I'm hoping that we will get Mike back next Tuesday, which I got to say, I have come to experience a new sense of appreciation for Mike. Trying to do this by yourself is ridiculous. And the thing that I appreciate most about Mike is that he gives me things to think about and then talk about that I would never consider. So really appreciate just having another brain to come up with stuff in order to bounce ideas off of. God, my picture seems white. Maybe that's better. Okay. So, we wish Mike and his family all the best, and hopefully things work out in the near future. So, today, we've got some news and notes from around the NFL. Let me find that banner. Bam. There it is. So, let's start in Green Bay, just so that we can get done talking about Green Bay. The Packers have cut two-time Pro Bowler, I think not an All-Pro, but two-time Pro Bowler, Jair Alexander. Not traded, cut. So I would imagine that he is going to clear waivers and then sign with someone that he wants to sign with. And the reason I think that he'll clear waivers is I don't think that people are going to want to pick up his contract. I don't know that it's terrible. I'll look it up here real quickly. Green Bay Packers. Oh, he may not be on the roster anymore. Oh, thank God. Thank goodness he is. Okay, this upcoming season, 2025, he was set to make $24 million. He had no guaranteed money left on his deal. He's going to carry a $17 million dead cap hit. So they are going to pay him $17 million to not play for them this year. So I saw, hey, Brian. Oh, we're going to get to that in a second. Do you remember a guy named Mike? I do, vaguely, but he was a Rams fan. Well, I think that he would, I don't know that there's much of a distinction, but I think that he would say that he was a Matthew Stafford fan, but he roots pretty hard for that team. So 6 of one, half a dozen the other, maybe. So Jair Alexander is 28. He's 5'11". Well, he at one point, probably during the combine, weighed in at 5'11", 192. He went to Louisville. He has been a top cornerback in the NFL for several seasons. And I think that's probably being stingy with the praise. He could be much better than what I'm letting on, and he's going to make somebody this year at least probably real happy because the Packers are going to pay him a certain amount of money, and that might as well be a discount for what another team is going to have to pay him to play on their squad. So like Brian says, Rams, right? So let's take a look. Right now, let's see, cap space. The Rams are sitting with $19 million in cap space. And I saw the other day that Tre'Davious White's contract, I think still with the Rams, which was $4.5 million with incentives that could bump it up, would be a starting point for what another team could pay him this year. So some team's going to get him for somewhere between, I would guess between $5 and $10 million just for this season, with maybe some kind of escalator like conference championship, Pro Bowl, All Pro, Super Bowl win. Who knows? They might throw on a couple incentives just to kind of make it be like, after 6 weeks, if we're not right where we're supposed to be, you don't stop playing hard, or something like that. So LA, lots of people want to play in LA, right? Sunny California could be a very interesting situation for them. They have the money, they have the need at the position. He's excellent. It's a team that in the past at least has loved star players. They might be changing that philosophy slightly, but I mean, it's not every day that a team cuts a Pro Bowl cornerback and you can sign him for a quarter of what he's worth, somewhere in there. So, and then if he likes the experience, gets along with the other players, coaching staff, likes the city, you might be able to get him, I don't know, not a huge discount, but something, or maybe he at least wants to engage in contract negotiations with you. So that would be a fit. I've also heard Baltimore would be an option. What else did I see? And there were a couple of other teams that were not contenders, which I don't think that he would be interested in, like Vegas, or who's the other one? Cincinnati. But Cincinnati, that's a perfect segue. So we might as well finish out with Alexander and Brian's question. I don't think Alexander will not fit with us. So you're saying that you don't think he's a good match for the Lions, is how I read this, right? And I would agree if that is the assessment. So 5'11", 195, he's big for a Lions cornerback, Amik Robertson and DJ Reed, I believe, are both smaller than that. And that didn't work. Sunlight, chase it away. Filters are not working. Nice. Primarily a zone corner. I think that's the difference, is that if I'm not mistaken, I believe so Alexander freelances too much. So in Detroit, their defense, in Detroit, the Lions defense, they use their corners and they push the wide receivers back to the middle of the field. A lot of teams will quote unquote play the boundary, right? Where the cornerback tries to use the sideline as another part of the defense to eliminate space. Detroit flips it on its head. Detroit wants their cornerbacks to push wide receivers back to the middle of the field because they give their safeties, Branch and Joseph, that kind of freedom to freelance on the back end, right? It's why Kirby seems like he's always covering one half of the field, Branch had 4 picks, relatively early in the season last year. Of course, Joseph had 9, so like Detroit, their corners don't create a lot of interceptions because they're being asked to funnel them to their safeties. And so that's why Kirby and Brian have what you would consider to be like interception totals akin to a cornerback. It's because it's by design. So this season, I would say watch their corners, watch the Lions corners, especially on like when someone's covering the slot, so like Amik Robertson, and see if he lines up on the outside shoulder of the wide receiver, because I'll bet that he's trying to push that guy back to the interior of the field. And so I agree. I think that that's a long way of saying that I agree. I don't think that Alexander would be a fit with us. He is primarily a zone corner. The Lions want to play man. So, even the Lions play 50-50 split. So, but like there are some teams in the NFL that play upwards of like 75-80% zone. So, Alexander's probably a way better. Oh, my goodness. What, buddy? Guys, ladies and gentlemen, Mike. Mike, how are you?
I am ready to talk some football. It was a tough day today. My father-in-law's funeral was today. So, hence the tie. This is actually Bob's tie. So, Bob was a big Detroit sports fan, mostly the Tigers, but Red Wings and Lions as well. So, tough day, but we're getting through. So, how
How
is
long?
it's been a while.
Yeah, I was. If you had not popped in unexpectedly today, it would have been a month. Would have
Yeah,
been week 4.
no, this was week three.
Well,
Last
this, I mean,
week, so 2 weeks ago was
right.
when I went down to Florida to close on our house, which we finally did.
Oh,
And
great.
then the emergency flight back was last Tuesday. He passed away a week ago today. So,
Yeah. So what I had said
yeah.
was, if I hadn't have seen you this week and we
Oh, yeah,
saw you
yeah.
next week, it would have been week 4.
Yeah, it
You
would
know.
have been a
So
month from the. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
welcome back, Mike.
What's up, Joseph? Good to see you.
Yeah. So we were just
Virtually in the
covering.
chat, not in person. But Drew, it's good to see you.
Yeah. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Um, we were just doing
And a
some news
lot's
and notes.
happened. Holy crap.
Has it?
Well, I mean, since the last time I was on, Frank Ragnow is not,
Oh,
he's
yes.
retired, right?
Yeah.
Um,
It's true.
Aaron
We did.
Rodgers, the Rodgers watch is over, right? Rodgers signed.
And his
Nick
marriage.
Chubb signed. Um, what else? Jair Alexander got cut.
That's what we're talking about right now.
Yeah, so a lot's happened, and for an off season of like we were trying to find things to talk about for a couple weeks, and all of a sudden it's like bang, bang, bang.
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. Well, we basically said that Alexander got cut, probably
Yep.
a contract related, leading to a personality conflict is what it's sounding like, which led to a cut. And then we were speculating on to whom he might be signed, and the leading contender is the Los Angeles Rams.
Yeah, especially if they don't get Jalen Ramsey. That's
Well,
been the rumor for the last month.
even if they do get Jalen Ramsey, like he fits the scheme,
Yep. And they need the
and
help. They
they
need
need
more
the
than one
help.
guy.
It's a franchise that at least in the very recent past was very attracted to star players,
Hmm.
and he's going to be at a discount because the Packers are going to be giving them cutting him doesn't mean that they're not paying him at all this season. So
Right.
he can sign at a relative discount at least this upcoming season with a team of his choosing. And if does he want? I mean, I know he went to college at Louisville, but I don't know where he grew up or where he was born. So, Southern California has held great appeal to many a player. So,
This is true.
it seems like
And it's not like they're scrubs, right? They won
no,
the NFC West last
right,
year. They won their first playoff game. They were the closest team to beat the Eagles in the playoffs. They were a couple plays away. Like they're a good team. So it's not like they're going to he would be going to a place that is more or less like banishment. Banishment
right,
for dollars, right? So he's going to a contender
yep.
if
So
he chooses to go there.
yeah, he's got a lot of oh god, he has choices, and that's probably what he's probably going to have to take somewhat of a pay cut this year in order to select the team that he wants to play for, and then hopefully get a contract extension. So I don't know that he's going to get something what Derek Stingley just got, 3 years, 90, but he could get something I would think close to that, 3 years, 75 to 90, somewhere in that range. He's probably worth that.
Yeah.
So he's 28, so it's not like he's anywhere near as like physical decline. Hey Hatters,
Right.
what's going on, man?
What's up,
So
Hatters?
do you have thoughts on Frank Ragnow retiring, Mike? You want to hit us with the
I was super bummed. Like
sure?
I think we'll be okay, right? We got bookends with Panay Sewell and Taylor Decker on the outsides. We've got Tate Ratledge that we just drafted. He could play center. I think he'll probably still play guard, but I know he was taking first team snaps at center during OTAs. So I think we'll be fine. We've got some good young guys on the line. But yeah, I mean, it's a real bummer. I think part of it is contract, and most of it was just not wanting to deal with the pain. And like, I know he's been injured a lot, and the toe and all that kind of stuff, the foot injury. There's a point at which you're just like, I don't need to do this anymore. And I think he was probably at that point. Although that said, I think if they would have renegotiated a contract and threw a few more million at him, he might have stuck through it another year. But and even then, I don't know, like how much incentive is there for somebody that's already made a whole bunch of millions?
So I was I was watching an interview earlier in the off season with a reporter, and it was Ragnow and Decker, and the reporter asked them, "Do you guys have stories about each other that you'd like to share?" So Decker goes, "I've seen what his toe. I've seen like the X-rays of his toe. Like people have no idea what he's doing. At this point, if you told me that Frank Ragnow would walk down the hallway in sneakers and his toe would just pop out of socket, I wouldn't be surprised. And he's just like stomping on it with the other foot to put it back in every few steps. It's got to be something close to that, because I don't have any idea what kind of a toe injury. His ligament had to be severed or something. Like it's just unfixable.
Yeah.
And to think of something being unfixable by medical science in 2025 is kind of impressive that exists.
Or at least unfixable in a way that's going to actually remove the pain, right?
Yeah. So anyway, Ragnow's story about Decker was that at one point late last season, Decker had appendicitis and found out the day before the game, the evening before the game, and didn't tell anyone, didn't tell any of the coaches. Jesus. Played the whole game with appendicitis, and then went to the hospital after the game and had an appendectomy. Like, I've never had my appendix out, but I've heard it's very, very painful.
Yeah.
So
it reminds me of in the 90s hockey, Peter Forsberg for the Colorado Avalanche had his spleen removed after a game. And that was more emergency. We don't know what's going on. You look like you're about to die kind of thing. Not just, my appendix hurts, but I mean, obviously it was more than that to have it removed. But that was same kind of thing. You're like, that dude just played a hockey game, and I always have his spleen out, and to have the same thing with your appendix is, to me, is just one of those things that just boggles my mind, that someone can go through that kind of pain and then go, okay, now I'm ready for major surgery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we did a little bit of speculating on what the week 1 lineup might be. And I know where I work, they are just, it is dooms. It is, the sky is falling. Like, oh, what is the week 1 lineup going to be? Like, what are these guys are toast. I mean, like, without Ragnow. And I'm like, I think everything's going to be okay. Like, it's not going to be as good because he's probably a Hall of Famer. But, I mean, you still have Penei Sewell, Taylor Decker, like Mahogany filled in pretty well. And, like, I think left guard is Glasgow's worst position. So, I mean, and then you drafted Ratledge and Frazier, So, I mean, like, I think that they are going to figure out who they're going to want their next center to be. I'm guessing it's this upcoming season, it's Glasgow, and that you'll have Ratledge at right guard and Mahogany at left. But Ratledge might be the full-time center next season. But I don't think that you're going to cross-train a rookie on a position that he's never played when you have a guy was the primary backup and a starter on the continuity and knows what the Lions offense, how it wants to run.
Yeah.
You're not going to put a rookie cross-train, even though he's a second-round pick, in that spot. You're going to go with the veteran. And like, there were some people on here and during the chat that was like, well, he wasn't very good last year. And I was like, I agree. He wasn't. But there's a reason he's the reason that he's the primary backup on 5 positions, and he's also been the backup center in case Frank was ever, couldn't go.
Yeah.
And they're going to side with the experience. I'm almost certain. Like I'm willing to die on this hill. So
yeah.
So
one of the things that I thought we might talk about today, if I got on here, was Dave Burkett from the Free Press. He posted his all 21st century team, basically the first quarter century for the Lions on offense. And he kind of ran through quarterback, I think wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, running back 1, running back 2, tight end, and then each of the offensive line positions. So I wasn't sure if you wanted to talk about that at all, or if we had more news and notes before we pop into that.
It would look pretty poor of me if you popped back on unexpectedly after a 2-week absence, and I was like, no, fuck your idea.
That's fair. All right, so I'm going to throw something on the screen here. And so this was the quarter century team. And we'll go through them kind of pick by pick. And his biggest challenge, I think, was on the quarterback spot. So in the first quarter of basically the 2000s, you essentially have 2 quarterbacks to choose from, right? You have Goff and Stafford. And you have reasons for both, right? Stafford carried the franchise for a dozen years. Goff got us our first win, a playoff win, and our first division title since we have been the NFC North. We were the NFC Central the last time, and our first playoff win. So there's definitely arguments for both. So I thought that was interesting. Curious who and I don't think I scrolled quite that back, quite down that far. Curious, who do you think he would have picked? Who would you take for your quarter century and Lions offense, first team offense?
Well, first of all, Mike, could you make that bigger?
I could.
Excellent. That's perfect. And this isn't tough for me at all. Like this, I mean, it's Matthew Stafford. Like he's just the better player.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know that. I mean, I think that there are people that would be like, oh, Billy Sims, or was that his name? Billy Sims?
Yeah. Yep.
Who would be like, oh, he's the greatest Lions quarterback ever because he won all those NFL championships.
Oh, no, you're thinking of Billy Sims was the running back before Barry Sanders. You're thinking of
the curse of
Bobby Lane.
Yeah, okay.
Bobby Lane.
I think that there are people that would be like Bobby Lane because he won all those NFL championships back in the day. And then as soon as they come to the NFL, he gets traded to Pittsburgh and he quote unquote curses the Lions, right?
Right. But this is also just the 2000 to 2025.
Sure. But I think that you could easily say Matthew Stafford is the best quarterback to play for the Detroit Lions in the entire history of the organization. So
I agree.
I'm glad I was sitting down for that one. So, I mean, I like Jared Goff fine, and it's taken a while to get there, but like, yeah, I would very much like to see some kind of like multiverse simulation where Matthew Stafford plays for this team.
Yeah.
Because he just never had a front office that supported him intelligently.
Yeah, he had a bottom 10 offensive line, a bottom 10 run game. Brandon Pettigrew he was a blocking tight end. He was the best tight end threat. We had a bottom 5, bottom 8-ish run game. Our head coaches never got another head coaching gig. Our coordinators never got a coordinator gig. Like, we were not a good team. It was like him and Calvin Johnson and a bottom three defense, other than 1 year. So, like, we did not do what we're doing right now. Thank God for Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell and Sheila.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're a difference maker. So
Yeah.
This is Matt Stafford for me, and I would die on this hill. So
Same. Yep. Oh, RB1, he's got Jahmyr Gibbs. So thinking 2020 or 20 through 2025, we've had barely any good running backs in the last 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
There are only 5 running backs that have actually run for more than 2,000 total yards. Think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, total, not in a year, right? With the team. And you're just like, that can't be true. Yeah, we were that bad for that long. Gibbs is already in his second year, third on that list with 2,357 yards. So to me, he's a no-brainer for RB1. So I scrolled down too fast, but is he also your RB1?
It's hard to say he's not. I really like David Montgomery.
Yeah.
I look at these two, and I don't know that I don't really know that I could distinguish between the two of them up until this point in their tenure in Detroit.
Yeah.
Like, there might easily, and I think some people might argue it was last season, but I think there's going to come a time when Jahmyr Gibbs shatters the comparison, or like whatever. I just don't know that it's there yet. And like,
so you're still thinking like 51-49 between the two, 52-48, real close, but maybe nudge to Gibbs.
I think that one of the things that helps Gibbs is that they do split carries. Mm-hmm. So if you put these two guys together, right? If you put these two guys together, which is ridiculous, but like, and said, look at, if we combine Montgomery and Gibbs's rushing attempts, yardage, touchdowns, fumbles, catches, receiving yards, receiving touchdowns, all that, and made it one running back, it'd be the best running back that ever played football. I mean, it wouldn't be not be close. And so if you took half of David Montgomery's workload and gave it to Jahmyr Gibbs, he's probably 1,500 yard season rusher. You know, he might have 20 combined touchdowns. His all-purpose yards would be insane. You know, that kind of stuff. So like, all of that is present in Jahmyr Gibbs, right?
Yeah.
He is going to have, they have already extended David Montgomery. So I mean, like, now it's not so big that you can't be like, yeah, you can play effectively 6 games this season or whatever. But like, I think the thing that David Montgomery does slightly better than Jahmyr Gibbs is sets the Lions up in effective down and distance. And I think that Jahmyr Gibbs is very clearly the more likely of the two to get a 20-yard play, right?
Yep.
However, I think that the offense is predicated on 2nd and 6, 3rd and 2. Let's, quick out to Amon-Ra St. Brown. Let's keep the chains going. And I don't know that is going to get you on something like a list like this.
Yeah.
But I mean, I can agree that he's probably the best running back that we've had in 20 years. I don't like the names that he was put up there with, because I think David Montgomery should be in that conversation. But
well, this is just the names of the people that have rushed for more than 2,000 yards with the Lions. He has not rushed that far yet.
No, I mean,
but yes.
So he gets, I can't see the rest of the article, but like listing Kevin
That's strategic,
Jones, James
because
Stewart,
RB2 is next.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah. So RB2, who was our second best? right?
Right. I don't. Who
I
could
would
it
pick
be?
Montgomery as well.
Yeah.
So to me, it was like, okay, is it David Montgomery or is it? And my brain is fried from the last 2 days. Um, Reggie Bush. He was
Oh,
my
sure.
other guy that I'm like, I don't know. He's not on this list because he
Mhm.
had one 1,000 yard season, and then he was hurt with us, and he only played I think with 2 seasons maybe with us, so he didn't hit that list there.
Right.
So do you go Reggie Bush or do you go David Montgomery or do you go one of these other guys?
Easily David Montgomery for me.
Still go Montgomery over Bush.
I am like, first of all, like if I have to go out and buy a Lions jersey, I'm gonna buy Aiden Hutchinson. But if I
Right.
then have to buy another jersey, it might be David Montgomery. Like
Really
I
interesting.
hold him in extremely high esteem.
Yeah.
So maybe that's not, I don't know. Like if you wanted to say, like, I look at it like Detroit has two number one backs on it, end of sentence, and like they have to share.
Yeah.
So if you want to call Gibbs 1A and Montgomery 1B, or if that's what Burkett does here, then okay, I'm not going to fight. This isn't the hill that I want to die on. So
Right.
Mm.
He went he went with James Stewart. He had two 1,000 yard rushing seasons. Two Jones's one, Kevin Jones. 1,181 yards, second most by any Lions back since Barry Sanders. I disagree. I would have put, to me, it was down to those two guys when it comes to like Reggie Bush or David Montgomery, and I might have actually given the. You make a really good argument for Monty. Don't get me wrong, and I love him, and I think he and Gibbs together are the engine that drives our offense. But Reggie Bush was really good considering the garbage we had on our offensive line at the time. And he was the only thing that was remotely a threat outside of Calvin Johnson and Matthew Stafford combination. So that was why I was going to give him the edge, but I would be perfectly thrilled with Montgomery being RB2. I was shocked to see James Stewart here.
It's because it's long.
Right?
Hang on one second. I gotta.
Yeah.
I'm gonna.
Hey, dude, that's the dude on my milk carton. James Stewart.
Hang on. All right. So.
Yeah, Dave just flexing how long he's been covering the team.
So in 2023, his first season in Detroit, David Montgomery had 258 rushing attempts.
Mm-hmm.
1,198 yards. So if you want to round up to 1,200, yeah, okay. I mean, and 15 touchdowns, 2 fumbles. Last season, so obviously, he has never played in Detroit without Jahmyr Gibbs, right? Gibbs is going into year 3.
Correct.
Okay. So
yeah, we got him, and then we drafted Gibbs, and we were like, "What the hell? We just got Montgomery."
Right. Yeah. Okay. It's all coming back to me. Draft night 2023. Last season, he had 192 attempts for 800 yards, 12 touchdowns, 2 fumbles. So I don't know what criteria Burkett needs in order to get on this list. So, but like the fact that he's not, I didn't see his name in either one of these 2 paragraphs.
No.
Which is fucking crazy.
It was interesting. So up top, he talks, and Dr. D, thanks. You missed the beginning. I was, my father-in-law passed away last Tuesday. And so we were emergency flying back up from Florida, where we closed on a kind of a retirement house, pre-retirement house. Yeah. And then the funeral was today. So I didn't think I was going to make it, but we were able to get back in time. So I missed you guys as well. So he does kind of start by saying, hey, most of our success in the first quarter century has really been the last couple years, especially when on the playoff side of things. So he was like trying to not just stick to identifying the best players of the Dan Campbell era. So I think he's trying to be fair to the previous 22 years of our existence. And I think he is trying to, and I don't know if like Brian M is like, yeah, he's just flexing how long he's been covering him and just trying to not be the who's who of the last 3 years and leaning a little bit more into that when the reality is James Stewart has got nothing on David Montgomery.
Yeah, neat. He's wrong. Like Dave Burkett is wrong. Like
Yeah.
you might very easily, in all seriousness, like maybe even outside of Matthew Stafford and Calvin Johnson, like you might very easily look at this team that they've assembled in the last 4 years, if you want to call it 4 years, and say, yeah, these are the best players at these positions they've had in 20 seasons. That's how inept the previous 4 or 5 front offices were at this. So I mean, I'm sorry, but like it's not James Stewart. It's just not. So I don't care. I mean, I do care, but like I don't want to. This is wrong, and I don't want to look at it anymore. I mean,
I'm trying to find on StatHead the. All right. Does that pop? Okay, so it does pop over, and I will zoom in. So this was James Stewart versus David Montgomery. This is not just with their times in Detroit though.
okay.
And I just did it real quick to kind of show like where they were at. 101 games, only 500, like a little bit higher yards per attempt, more rushing touchdowns in far fewer games, right? 20% less games and more touchdowns. His yards per reception was higher. Monty's is in fewer. So like, I mean, I think even statistically, he kind of beats him in all the averages. So yeah, I agree. I think he's wrong on this one. Next up is wide receiver one. Who is our wide receiver one? Best one of the 20,
Who could it be?
2020 and 2025.
I don't know. What?
And a spoiler because I forgot that it was a one-liner. St. Brown is our wide receiver two. Although
Sure.
they did bring up like Golden Tate, Marvin Jones. Neither of them are all pros.
Mhm.
They were Pro Bowl, but Pro Bowls
Roy Williams
are...
being on that list is hilarious.
He had a really good year for us.
Year.
Yes. So I mean, I think this is also a no-brainer when it comes to, can we put anybody else up there? I mean, Titus Young, right? Like, who else do we have?
We've got poor kid.
We have Golden Tate, Marvin Jones Jr., and I guess they can throw Roy Williams in there to have enough to create a list. But I mean, it's really those two.
It is for sure those two. For me, the next guy is Golden Tate.
Yes.
So
I would put Tate over Jones.
Yes.
Jones came in a little bit more highly sought, but I didn't think he really met expectations. I mean, he was fine. He was a average wide receiver too, but he kind of came in as like, well, I was this other team's number one, and now you're going to have two number ones, and he was never really that.
Yeah.
Next up, tight end. Who do we have at tight end in the last 20 to 25 years?
I think I have an answer.
All right. Who would your tight end of the first quarter century be?
TJ Hawkinson.
Interesting. Okay. It is not. It is Brandon Pettigrew. He is the second highest receiving tight end since Hall of Famer Charlie Sanders. And I think because Hawk was only with us for like basically 2 years worth of games, I think Laporta will end up being this,
I agree.
right? And Hawk could have been had he stayed with us.
I'm looking him up. 1 second.
Brandon Pettigrew?
No.
Oh, Hawkinson?
The guy that I think is the better player. Yeah. Man, my computer sucks. All right.
I've always said that like Brandon Pettigrew, he was a blocking tight end, but Stafford had to throw it to somebody other than Calvin Johnson. And he made a blocking tight end look like an actual threat when he really kind of wasn't. So I would probably put Hawkinson and Laporta. Yeah, he was basically David Sloan, but when David Sloan or a David Sloan equivalent is your best tight end of a quarter century, you don't have very good tight ends. So I'm curious what you're looking at there on your side.
Well, the computer is going in for an upgrade tomorrow. So,
right on.
Well, it's not giving me his season over season and stuff. So I'll have to go year by year. Hang on 1 second. Which will mean that I'll have to wait for the goddamn thing to load. Anyways, let me just maybe that's PFF's fault. Let me spottrack.com. Search for a player, Hawkinson.
Here's what I got.
Popped right up. All right. PFF is disappointing me right now.
I like StatHead for comparisons because you can pick two people and show that you can actually bounce around for things like somewhere in here you can do choose seasons. So you can pick like, just their first 3 seasons and compare them against each other. So it's kind of a cool option here, but
I don't know how to use that site, Michael.
So obviously neither of them have championships, but Hawkinson has 2 Pro Bowls. I think one of those was with us. One of those was with Minnesota.
StatHead, you say?
StatHead, yes.
Football.
So
search.
Who is the guy that caught a bunch of touchdowns and had like 5 catches, 5 touchdowns? Oof.
Okay, so he
Eric
played.
Ebron?
It might have been Ebron. He played 3 full years in Detroit, so call it 3.5. And while his first 3 seasons, he played 12 games, 16-12. He had 59 catches, 101 catches, 84 catches, and then the year that he was traded, he had 129 catches. He has never had more than 6 touchdowns in a season, which I find kind of surprising. 17 game average. He's got 117 targets for 79 catches, 830 yards, and 5 touchdowns a season. So I think one thing, Joseph Foria, nice.
So, by the way, this is the first 3 years of their careers.
Sure.
Since they both started with Detroit and Hawkinson was gone after 3, I figured that was the easiest way to do a head-to-head in Detroit.
Well, I think the rushing attempts are probably going to put one over be the tiebreaker. Right? So
he did get one. We trusted him with the rushing attempt.
Stat for a tight end.
He did not actually get anywhere, but we did trust him enough to rush once. It was probably 4th and 1 or something, and we didn't make it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at these, and I'm thinking there's not a ton of separation in these two things. If I had to pick between these two to play in a game at their physical peak, I would pick TJ Hawkinson. So
I would too.
I mean, Brandon Pettigrew, okay.
And now this is the first 5 years.
Sure.
Everything is now Pettigrew on Hawkinson's side.
Oh, fantasy points? Oh, there you go. These guys do everything. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge proponent of the Pro Bowl as like a
same.
Like when I do my like Hall of Fame quarterback stuff, it's like the 5th criteria that I talk about. How many Pro Bowls were you elected to or went to or whatever? Because a lot of people just don't go.
Right.
So I do think it's kind of telling, though, that even in an era when people went to a Pro Bowl and played in a Pro Bowl, Brandon Pettigrew never had an opportunity to go to one, right? Like,
yep.
And is that because when Brandon Pettigrew played, tight end was a more important position that was featured more heavily in many more NFL offenses, and he was really good. He just wasn't as good as the people in his era. Entirely possible.
Yeah.
But in his era, TJ Hawkinson at least went twice.
Yeah.
Right.
And he's going up against guys like Kittle in his own conference, right?
Yes. So
and I can't think who was the Dallas Cowboy tight end that was there for years. He was a perennial all-star.
Witten.
Or Jason Witten. Yeah. So I mean, he had to go up against Witten, but he never got past him. Hawkinson was going up against guys like Kittle and still got there, right? I think Pettigrew, his stats came from the fact that we had Calvin Johnson, we had no run game, and you had a guy like Matthew Stafford. He can make blocking tight ends have good stats. He got Kenny Galladay $20 million a year, right? Like, so Pettigrew was average, but we had to feed the ball to somebody.
Once again, I think it's telling that it's these two guys. Like TJ Hawkinson is a good tight end. I think he's an above average tight end. I think he's one of the better tight ends in the conference. I don't know that like he's going to like if someone is a Seattle Seahawks fan and they get asked 2 years from now, like, hey, 5 years ago, who was one of the name me 5 great tight ends in the NFL? Does TJ Hawkinson's name come up? I doubt it. But like, I mean, this is the level of player we have to discuss here.
Yeah.
And like, to me, I think that, how long is it going to take Sam Laporta to be at the top of this list? 2 years?
Probably, yeah.
And
he will get there faster than Hawkinson would have had he stayed.
Right. And like, TJ Hawkinson he didn't play that long with Matt, right? He played 1 or 2 years.
One, I think. It was rookie year. And he was hurt for a good chunk of it.
He played during the terrible initial transition year. And then
the bad first half second year.
Right.
And that's when we traded him.
Right. So, I mean, that's his career. Like, is it that much worse than what Brandon Pettigrew had to go through? Probably not. Yeah. And like, so like Amon-Ra wasn't Amon-Ra when TJ was here. You didn't have Jameson Williams healthy playing. Like, he wasn't a 1,000-yard receiver, randomly. Like, you didn't have the running game. You didn't have the O-line. You didn't
have a play caller that was worth a damn.
Right. So, I mean, like, I think the situation sets up a lot better for Sam Laporta to be successful, but that's why so many of these guys are quote unquote the best you've had at this position in 20, 25 years.
Yeah.
It's because the situation is so much better. It sets them up to be successful.
Yep.
All right. What's next? My God.
So what's next? I kind of scroll. You might remember it already. But there are 2 possibilities at left tackle. Left tackle, we have our current Taylor Decker, And then before Decker, if you remember right, we had Jeff Backus, who
Backus.
started
Yep, went to Michigan.
186 straight games at left tackle.
Yeah,
That is 60 more than Decker has in total career starts.
sure.
So those are the two that are the options. Because that's about the only guys that actually played
Right.
in the last 25 years. So who do you go with?
Well, I go with Decker, but I'm sure that Burkett went with Backus.
He did not.
Oh my goodness gracious!
He went with Decker. Basically, Decker had the Pro Bowl. Backus had 0. He was kind of underappreciated, I think, and I think he was right when
Well,
he
he
talks about being
played a long
underappreciated
time
during his
on
career.
bad teams, so I mean
Yep.
that's a real good recipe to go underappreciated.
Yes. I would also go Decker though. Like I appreciate Backus. He was a solid guy, but again, he did not hit a Pro Bowl. He did not. I just think like if PFF was around in the early 2000s, I think Decker's numbers would just be better than what Backus's would have been had they been around.
Yeah, probably. You know, if the Matthew Stafford era Lions were 10-win teams, and they had guys here and there going to Pro Bowls, they had a couple playoff wins or whatever, just a little bit
Yeah.
better than what they were, right?
Yep.
Then these lists probably look drastically differently because the good players on bad teams would get some recognition, and that's just not how it works, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's the problem. I mean, that's what all the guys that are not on the current roster are going to have to have dealt with in their careers, unfortunately, So, but this is nice because it helps us appreciate what we have right now.
100%. Yep.
Yeah, let's go. What's next?
Next up is left guard.
Oh, interesting. I don't know. Go ahead.
So this player started every game at left guard for the Lions for 5 seasons, and it is not a current left guard. But the fact that you guys are having to think this long tells you the lack of high-end guard play.
Well,
that
no
the
one
Lions
cares
have
about
had.
guard. 5 years.
5 years for this.
I'm gonna know it when I see it. Go ahead. I don't even have a guess. Rob wouldn't have got
Sims.
it. Okay,
Rob
sure.
Sims.
Moving on.
Yep. All right, center. All right, we've got two worthy players, right?
Right. So it's either him or Raiola, right?
Him or Raiola. Raiola had 203 starts to Ragnow's 96. But Ragnow is a 3-time second-team All-Pro and has been considered the top center in the NFL, or a very top center in the NFL the last couple of years. Who do you go with?
This is Frank Ragnow is going to be a Hall of Famer. And
you think so?
He's made multiple All-Pro teams at a position that doesn't keep stats. Yeah. Like
I'd love for him to do that.
And so the only argument I think is that his career is quote unquote short. 7 seasons, I think. So, and he's been on good teams recently, but those teams didn't win anything. So that might hold him back. I don't know how people think about centers. But
they don't. That's the problem.
Right.
That's the only reason why I don't think he gets in, because people don't think about centers.
I don't know what someone else would have to do more than what Frank Ragnow did to become a Hall of Famer at his position.
Just probably more games, more years. 96 games is all he played.
Yep. So
that's six seasons worth. But obviously he was hurt, so he played more seasons, but not more games.
So I mean, I can see the Iron Man argument for an offensive lineman holding a lot of sway. But I mean, I still think that when you played, you were one of the best in your era matters. and I'll default to that.
And so did he.
Oh, good.
Um, I agree. Like I thought Rayola I think was also underappreciated. He was a little undersized, but he was a
Mm-hmm.
really smart dude. Like he was really smart under center. Um, and we were just bad. We were
Right.
bad during his tenure, which doesn't again get you any of those Pro Bowl types of nods when you're playing a position like center on a bad team. You don't get the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, if you were like if Riola and Ragnow were food,
Yeah,
you'd be like, boy, this food's really good, and there's not that much of it.
yeah,
Or that food over there was not nearly as good, but at least there's a lot of it.
yeah. And the presentation is magnificent on the
Right.
other on the other dish.
I would be like, well, okay, so is the context here that if I stop eating it, I'll die? Because then I'll choose the one that's more food, even if it tastes bad.
Right.
If I'm going to just live regardless, I'll just take what's better.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yep.
that's me.
All right. On the other side, we got the right guard.
This one might be tougher.
The Lions have had 13 different primary starting right guards this century.
So that's one every other
13
year.
in 25 years. This is going to be hard. There were two guards that actually held the spot for more than two consecutive full seasons.
There was a guard that went. Was one of them Jari? No, it wasn't Jari Evans. It was. We had a guard in the Bob Quinn era who ended up leaving and going to the Saints, and I can't remember his name. It wasn't Jari Evans.
Larry Warford?
Yeah.
Larry Warford?
Is he one of the two?
He is one of the two.
Oh, shit. I'll guess him. I don't even care the other guy.
The other guy is Steven Peterman.
Okay.
It is Larry Warford.
Oh, shit!
Hey, you got it. Yeah. And I forgot about that because as I'm looking through this to try to give hints, he actually talked about how he started for 4 seasons as a third-round pick, made 3 Pro Bowls after signing with the Saints. If you hadn't said that, I'm like, I have no idea who you're talking about.
I'm not going to lie. I had a shit day, and this kind of is a nice little silver lining.
Yeah, and then Damian Woody, he was our high-price free agent.
Sure. Yeah.
Came in and never really did anything. Zeitler,
No, he did
I
not.
think if Zeitler stuck with us, re-signed and played another 2 years with us, I think he jumps into the spot.
Sure.
But the son of a bitch left, so
he did.
Screw you, Zeitler.
He's from Tennessee.
All right.
Next one should be pretty easy.
The last one on the offense, right tackle.
It's Penny Sewell. It's not even close.
Yeah, there's no one close at this position.
Yeah.
So
he's not even 25.
Yeah.
He's not 25 years old yet.
Yeah.
Or he just turned.
The funny thing is, as I'm looking through this, our guard play has been spotty at best. Like Larry Warford was never a Pro Bowler or All Pro or anybody that you would hear in a positive. Not that you would hear it in a negative light, but he was never like, yeah, did you see Larry Warford really, really did a good job today.
He was
right.
Just
of course,
screaming guys.
Yeah, just usually interior offensive line don't get that anyway. But like our run games were so bad, and that's where those guards are like trying to push, and we just, So I think a lot of this to me screams out. We've had a bad offensive line outside of the tackles and Frank Ragnow. Our guards were terrible. Not terrible. They were forgettable, right? They were not special in any way. And our tight end situation is kind of the same. We've never really had a tight end that stuck around with us to be a special dude. And I think Sam Laporta's got that opportunity. We had a couple great wide receivers, and our run games have been terrible. We've got some with Gibbs and Montgomery right now. I think we've got a lot of positive. We got a positive future here for our run side, but for the first 22 years, not so much. So anyway, I thought this was a kind of a fun thing to kind of go through and think about the first quarter century. I'm not sure when the article comes out on the defensive side of the ball, but when we do, we'll probably roll through the same exercise there. But it's going to be a lot harder because we had far fewer quality players on defense. We didn't have a Stafford outside of Sue. We didn't have a Stafford, Calvin, St. Brown, Ragnow kind of dude. Sue was our guy for 3 years, 4 years. And now it's Hutch.
Yeah.
Like outside of our current like Branch, Hutch, like we've got some guys that are going to probably have to fill up that list because we were so bad for so long.
Right. I mean, you have guys like Darius Slay.
Yep. He was with us for 3 years.
Something like that. His length of his rookie contract, at least. It's an interesting thought exercise, at least from Burkett.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'll keep an eye out for the defensive one, and we'll do the same kind of thing.
So PFF put up an article the other day that was like top players under 25 on who has the most or whatever.
Yeah.
And the Lions have I think it's 5 or 6 of them.
See that?
And it was a lot of the guys we talked about: Sewell, Gibbs, Joseph, Laporta.
Was
Branch,
Hutch on there?
Hutch is 25. So
okay, so he was just outside.
Yeah, he just fell outside. But the list is strong.
Yeah.
Ziggy, Sean Rogers, Ziggy. Oh, Ezekiel Ansah.
I mean, yeah, probably, but
he had a lot of hype. There was a lot of hope around Ansah.
Yep, just like he's Roy Williams. He had a good year for us, but he never really lived up to the billing of what he was supposed to be.
And they never got
Sean Rogers. My favorite Sean Rogers memory is when he was a scoop a fumble return for a touchdown, and that big man was. I love watching the big men run back.
Who was the defensive tackle that we drafted right after Sue? Nick
Fairley. Nick Fairley. Yep. Another guy that we're like, oh, this guy could be, and then you're like, he's off the team in 3 years.
That's probably where my trauma from they drafted an interior defensive lineman in the first round, huh? Okay. I hope it works,
Yeah, so we went a decade without really hitting on anybody special.
Yeah. I'll be interested to see the defensive one, but I think to have that many players under 25 on that list on the same team, to me, especially spread out the way that they are, is very, very hopeful that eventually there's going to need to be a change at quarterback. And that's going to be a monumental transition for this team. So, because the offense is so tailored to what Jared Goff does well, that he had Ndamukong Suh next to him.
Yeah.
For 2 years. But yes, Jameson didn't he didn't make the cut because he's only had one decent season. Where is I going, Mike? Oh, the transition's going to be tough because are you going to have to tailor the offense, or you just alter it slightly to what the incoming quarterback does well? That's going to be unbelievably fascinating when they commit to a new quarterback. This is the guy, whatever. But that's probably years away. 3 years at the earliest, I would imagine.
Yeah.
So, but no, I'm very hopeful. I say that to say so many of these guys are probably the actual best player in the last 25 years at these positions, because the team's been so bad.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough when you don't have stars for two decades out of the 2.5 decades.
Yeah.
That bar gets lowered for things like your guard.
And how many times have we said something like the team went Calvin Johnson into Gosder Cherilus into Matt Stafford into Ndamukong Suh, right? So 3 of the 4 years, those are
Hall of Fame players.
Different, making a difference players, right?
Yeah.
And the crime is not that those players didn't work out. The crime is that, you got those players and then you failed to support them. And that's the exact opposite of what this organization is doing. Is like they're finding stars, Hutch, Sewell, and even St. Brown, like in well outside the first round. But put Gibbs in there, right? He's probably going to be a star before we know it, probably as early as this year. And, you're still adding guys that are like, and you're like, let's just pick some of the back end guys. Like, okay, Derek Barnes, he's a useful player. Is he a world beater? No. But like, he's a useful guy. They signed Alex Anzalone, captain of the team. I think Terrion Arnold is poised for a leap. Well, I mean, at least getting better. I think noticeably better.
Yeah.
This season, and that's what the reviews in camp have been so far. Is that like, so one thing that we've seen consistently coming out of Lions camp at this time of the year in this regime is that there's one player that people have been like, you would not believe how much effort player X has put in. Last year at this time it was Jack Campbell, and Jack Campbell is now, he was like the 12th best, highest rated linebacker in the NFL in year 2. If he gets up to, like, say he gets up to 8th best this upcoming season, like, could you really ask for more from a first round linebacker? I mean, so if Terrion Arnold goes to being like, what would you say? If he's a top 25 corner,
I'll say top 32.
Okay, top 32. So right. if he was a top 32 corner after this season per PFF ranking, right? Like, that's a jump. And like then now you have at least 2 quality starting corners on either side of your defense to pair with the best starting safety duo in the NFL. So I mean, that's a nice back end of your defense, at least.
Yeah, and when you were talking about the draft classes, right? We had Stafford, Suh, and Calvin, and we followed that up with, so the year after we drafted Suh, we drafted Suh in 2010, and that was a class of Suh, Javid Best in the second round, Amari Spivey, Jason Fox, a tackle, Willie Young, and Tim Toon.
I remember Tim Toon.
You're the only one.
Yeah.
Except for maybe the guys over at Weber State.
I watched all these drafts.
Right? Yeah. So the next year, though, we went Nick Fairley, Titus Young, Michael LaShore, Doug Hogue, and Johnny Culbreth.
Yep.
Right? Very forgettable draft class. We missed a bunch.
Yep.
The year after that, we went Riley Reif, who was a decent tackle. I mean, he was essentially a good backup quality, right? Yeah. And then we went Broyles.
Yeah.
Bill Bentley, a defensive back. Ronell Lewis, Tahir Whitehead, Chris Greenwood, Jonte Green, and Travis Lewis. And you're like, okay, Reif was a decent backup, good backup, bad starter quality tackle. And Tahir Whitehead had a couple good seasons at linebacker, but no difference makers. Bless you. The next year we went Ziggy Ansah at number 5 overall. Did not hit the expectation of a 5 overall.
Who was number 6?
Darius Slay in the second round, who played well. He was a hit. Larry Warford, who was a hit later on. Like, he was mediocre for us, but then kicked it up when he went to the Saints. And then Devin Taylor, Sam Martin, Corey Fuller, Theo Riddick, Michael Williams, and Brandon Hepburn. Like, these are not like gangbuster drafts. Next year, we took Eric Ebron over Aaron Donald, Kyle Van Noy, Travis Swanson, Nevin Lawson, Larry Webster, Karan Reed, TJ Jones, and Nate Freese. And you're just like, that's why we were bad. We missed on so many people.
Yeah, there's 7, effectively 8 rounds in the draft,
Yep.
right? You know, in the 8th round, maybe you don't get a pick because they're all compensatory selections now. But like the thing I'm hearing, listening to you, is like I recognize more than one of those names per season, but that doesn't mean that they were quality, productive players for 2, 3, 4 seasons.
Right.
You know, and like that's the difference is that in the drafts, we've gone over Brad's drafts now for years, and you can just see like that's a starter. He plays starter snaps. This guy, you know, is a rotational lineman. Like this guy played running back for 3 years. Like, I mean, like where are the guys on these lists that are even at the level of, say, Craig Reynolds?
Andre
Like,
Diggs turned out good.
Yeah, he did.
Kyle Van Noy started playing well after he left us. He went to New England and played well.
Well, that 2014 draft is just awful.
Ignoring the fact that Aaron Donald went, picks after this. You're right, it is awful. This one's not much. We got Slay. Martin was a good punter.
Yep, he's still punting.
This one was not great. Like it's.
Yeah, go the other
and we
direction.
didn't even have many, right? We had a first, 2 seconds, a 5th, and a 7th, and we're like, yeah, we got not much out of that. So just kind of looking through these, I mean, even the 2015 one, we got Diggs. Abdullah couldn't stay healthy. Tomlinson was nothing but a good backup or a bottom end starter.
Are they bold in their name because they're currently active players?
I believe so, yeah. Which blows my mind about Abdullah. I did not know he was still playing.
He's in Vegas.
Yeah, LVR. Good on him.
Yeah. 10 years.
And now we get into 2016 Taylor Decker.
Yep.
Glasgow.
Yep.
And a whole bunch that didn't really hit a mark.
Yeah, poor Jake Rudock.
2017.
Jared fucking Davis. My God in heaven.
Yep. I mean, we got Jalen Reeves-Maven and a whole bunch of guys that never really hit a mark.
Pat O'Connor's still on the roster. He's bounced around, but...
You know what? 7th round pick, still kicking it. Well done, Pat.
I mean, he's very clearly backup or 3rd team quality, but he's a player.
The next year we grab Ragnow and then a whole bunch of people that... Tracy Walker was okay for us.
Stop.
He was okay for us.
That's the rosiest of glasses.
I said okay. I didn't say great.
I know. I took your words as their dictionary definition.
So we had like one hit here, but even though this is a linebacker slash special teams, and then we start getting into T.J. Hawkinson, Will Harris.
Come on.
Yeah. So we another one. We had one hit.
Well, that Jelani Tavai pick is just a dick punch.
And then 2020, Jonah Jackson, I guess. I guess you can call it kind of a hit.
It's
so rough watching these.
I will say Jonah Jackson was a hit. So here's why. You got the best years probably out of that guy right off the bat.
Yep.
And you paid him tuppence, right? As Mary Poppins would say, for his effort, right? And then
Yep.
when he went to the free agency to get his payday and you let him go, that's a win.
Yeah.
Now, it's not what you want. Like, I had this argument with not an argument, but like, so our sometimes chat member Michael Lutchies was on Twitter, and after the Frank Ragnow news, and they were talking about like, well, what do you do with Ragnow, without Ragnow? And someone responded to his post with, I don't know, draft and develop, like just do that, like, and then gave like the shoulder shrug emoji, you know. And I was like, but if you don't retain the guys that you draft and develop, what are you doing? You're just getting them ready for other teams going into their prime. So, and that's the problem with these lists, is like, this is why it took so long for Brad to get this roster to a point where, okay, you have no homegrown talent, right? Okay, so now we're going to draft and develop. You go out and you get Sewell and Barnes and St. Brown. Even Onwuzurike contributed this last season, is going to have to contribute this upcoming one. Like, you went and got McNeil, who you've made a pillar of the team. Like, and then, you know, so that's 5 guys. Like, that might be 5 years worth of draft picks to find 5 contributors at the level that Brad had in his first draft. You know, and Onwuzurike didn't contribute for 3 years, you know, because he was hurt. So who the fuck does Jared Davis still play for? Click on his name. I challenge Pro Football Reference to prove that he is on an NFL roster. He is not. What is wrong with this? Has been years, sir. Years.
So I thought, I thought that meant that they were still on a roster.
I mean, I look at these lists and I still think, yeah, okay. Like, I don't know. I don't
better. It's 2024. Unless he's still getting paid as a like on a contract, but not on a team.
I mean, maybe it's not taking into account like practice squads. I mean, that could be a thing.
Oh, yeah, he could be on a practice squad.
Doesn't matter. He is not
like 27. So the ST I had to look up. This means starter. So when we look at this, we picked all these dudes, and these are the number of years as a starter, and that just means for that player, not for the team that drafted them.
Right.
Right. Okay. So like, this is bad.
I'm gonna answer a chat question really quickly here, Michael.
Right on.
So, Joseph, the offense is tailored to Jared's ability to get through his reads and throw accurately. In a large part, yes. Like, think about what the Lions want to do with their offense. Run the ball. That has nothing to do with Jared Goff, right? Like, he has to just call the play and hand the ball off. But when it comes to throwing the ball, where do they want to throw the ball? The middle of the field. That's where Jared Goff is good at throwing the ball, and that's where he wants to throw the ball, right? Like, a quarterback like
he doesn't have the zip to get outside,
right? So a quarterback like Russell Wilson wants to push the ball on the outside of the hash marks down the field. That's what so a whole offense tailored for Russell Wilson does that. Pushes the ball down the field to the sidelines. You know, and something like Joe Burrow, they want to threaten, you know, going down the field, making big plays. And he's already shown that he can mix it up and do things at every level of the field. If the defense is going to give him that, he'll take it and be good at it. So the thing that the Lions offense under Ben Johnson and now John Morton, it does is it puts the offense in a position to do what Jared Goff does well and doesn't force him to do things that he does not do well. So, like, I would not say that I would want to put Jared Goff in Cincinnati's offense because he just doesn't have the arm talent to do that. But he can throw the ball 50 plus yards to Jameson Williams 6 times a year. And like he can do that if he can pick a spot. So like that is when I say that the Lions have tailored their offense to Jared Goff, that's what I'm referencing. It's philosophically doing what Jared Goff is good at mentally and physically. So, and please do not take what I'm about to say out of context. But like Jared Goff is closer to a Peyton Manning style of quarterback than he is, say, a Kyler Murray style of quarterback, right? So like if those are the extremes on the spectrum, like he is going to fall into the like read, react, get through your route, get through your reads. But we're calling the plays to go to very specific areas of the field. So as I understand it, very basically.
Yeah. Well, and if you look at the routes, it is quick. He doesn't have to do reads and progressions. It is, here's your first guy. Here's the guy that if the first guy isn't open. This play is designed to get this guy open. Look there. If not, dump it here. Very rarely do you see those plays where he looks at one, looks at another. He gets a little happy feet the longer the play goes on. But like, you just don't see that. The plays are designed to get that first guy open and have a dump off, check down, security blanket type of outlet for if that guy's not open. So, and it is designed around that, which is, it works great. So let's keep it rolling. No shame in going, all right, well, we're going to give you one thing to go to and then have your check down as your second one. We'll just make sure that first thing gets open.
Yep. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens when they finally decide to like change philosophies, because they'll have the O-line, they'll have the running game, they will have added depth and like new players to this roster, and then what do you do philosophically? Like, I mean, there's no one player you can change on either side of the ball that's going to affect what you do philosophically more so than the quarterback. So is it like, oh, here's an opportunity to change what we like our quote unquote offensive identity, or we're going to look for a guy to put into this type of system, and like we're going to find the round peg for the round hole, that kind of thing. So, well, I think that'll do it today.
It is good to be back.
We don't want to get about the Lions. Yeah. So I'm glad you're back, man.
Yeah, me too. I don't anticipate missing any more in the near future, but I didn't anticipate missing the last couple. So
right.
Yeah, let's go Lions.
Yeah, pretty much.
Let's go Lions.
Yeah.
All right, appreciate everybody popping in, and missed y'all, and happy to be back. So we will we'll catch y'all next Tuesday at 7:00 as usual.
Yep. See you guys next week.
All right. See y'all.